The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to World Blockchain Roundtable. This is the 77th episode. Our hosts for today are Greg from Rivet.
Hey, guys.
Lisa Mighty Davis, owner of the new Mighty Lair. Satoshi Sean, entrepreneur and everyone's friend. I'm Joe, Master of Ceremonies for today, founder and architect of Dragon Chain. And we have a possible special guest, which if this person joins, we'll just bring him in. It'll be good. Let's see here. The theme of the week was supposed to be time of development cycle for quality products, nominated by Juan Esperanza, but there were no questions when we first called this out last night. So we called an audible to discuss events surrounding FTX, state of the industry, and all things related. We'll still, I assume we'll still credit Juan for the subject. And I think those of us who can, because there were a couple of questions that popped up, although some questions popped up about FTX as well. So we can go in and at least answer stuff in the replies as well to make sure we cover both sides. And it, maybe when we go through the questions are in there, we still want to answer them. So real quick update on the layer ownership tokens, the NFTs from last week, that every host will receive 177 lot, every topic contributor 44 lot. Last week's theme, which was essentially decentralization versus centralization war, nominated by IM4IM, who will receive 44 lot. So that's perpetual passive income, free edits, and governance votes. And also there is a new DAO vote up, a suggestion host. It's not a vote yet. It'll be a vote next week, I guess. So get in December theme suggestions, Santa Claus, Christmas, end of year stuff, whatever you might care about. And I guess we're voting on that next week. So that's it. So we could start current events. How do you guys want to frame this and start talking about it?
Which thing do we get to start with? Like, there's too much good stuff.
There's so much.
I saw what was it? Oh, the quartering. Maybe it wasn't the quartering. It was a guy talking about the elections and how they're all saying, like, it'll take a couple of days to count this up, and this is absolutely normal. And he said it is normal in all third world countries. But
Sean, we should be careful talking about the election on here because you and I's watch party got demonetized.
Really?
Oh no!
Because we live in America.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
home of the.
That's weird. We didn't.
Yeah.
It's real weird. But anyway, he said it's very normal in third world countries, but not really normal in any first world country. Which, I mean, I can remember back when things were a lot less technical, and it was over that night. We all watched it. It was nobody questioned it. It was.
It might be late in the night.
Yeah, but it was
especially if you lived east or Midwest. It was
Yeah, that's another thing, man. Lisa and I were watching it, and there were some, hillbilly states that were like 45% reporting. And those eastern states, they were 0, nothing, not a peep, man.
But Sean, they also were calling states with, they would say like 1% reported, and they would call the state for somebody.
Yeah,
and I was like,
and some were 0%.
Yeah,
I decided this year to not pay attention at all, to especially the night of, because it's all a show. Like why? It's a boring show too. You already know the ending of, so I don't know why you want to.
It was really funny. Oklahoma went blue, and Lisa freaked out. But first, Texas went blue. Beto was ahead, and I was like, "What?" And we looked at the map, and only Austin and Dallas were reporting, and then some little counties. But I was like, okay, that makes sense. And it was like 80% Beto. I was like, whoa. And and I was literally shocked. I was like, whoa. And Lisa's like, oh, calm down. And then Oklahoma went blue, and she was like, what?
And then I'm like,
yeah,
this is devastating for Oklahoma. Joy Hoffmeister destroyed the public schools. She's going to do the same. We had the most constitutional governor ever in Governor Stitt, blah, 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 blah. We have to reelect him. And I'm just like losing it. And then, so we went back and forth telling each other to calm down, I guess.
And then I
we did go red. And
I told her all cities are liberal. And she was like, not Oklahoma City. Where? I was like, every city now. Pretty much every concentration, every city, it's all liberal. Everyone, even in Texas, Houston, Dallas, Austin, all of them. They're all maybe not Amarillo, but I wouldn't even say. I don't know. I mean, like all cities, I think. And then pretty much all cities were blue.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy to watch all this happen, considering the pandemic rule, or I should say the lockdown crisis rules, changed the way that voting worked kind of permanently, right? You saw all this weird, pre-mailing type of stuff happening, and it's a new system, right? It never existed before, and it sort of spawned this weird excuse, right? That we have weeks to wait or whatever. But I mean, do you guys follow Glenn Greenwald at all on any channels, like on Twitter?
Mm-hmm. He's great.
Yeah,
he's one of the few actual journalists still working today.
Well, he had to leave the United States for obvious reasons, right? Like, because every time he was going through the airport, he was getting Gestapo'd because they hate his guts. Like, they hate him almost as much as they hate Snowden. But he was saying that they allow early voting in his country, right? He's down in Brazil, and they allow early voting there, and they still have results out the same night. Like, there's no excuse other than the fact.
I don't understand how early voting is. The term "early" is in there. That means you should kind of have them ready to go. Mm-hmm. It's like you don't have.
I mean, and it's
like I'm surprised by someone who was sitting right next to me. It's just like it's early, Yeah,
I mean, and it's silly because the whole concept of it kind of requires it, and people like to think that the digital age we should have electronic voting, right? We shouldn't be tied to paper and specific physical places. But when you think about it, like, how can you secure this? How can you secure this in a way where people can't pretend to be somebody who they're not? And we just don't have digital systems that can do that. And we certainly don't have digital systems that could ever create a permanent record there right now at the where they're gathering things and counting the numbers up, that we could trust was not being messed with, even if we had it on blockchain, for example. Right? We couldn't trust that.
Yeah, anybody who's ever tried to talk to the powers that be about what could be used, and so how could we use this technology in ways that you wouldn't have to trust me or the platform, you would literally be able to independently prove things. It becomes very obvious that the system is not designed for the things you would expect it to be designed for as a citizen.
Right.
It's designed so it can be played with, manipulated.
Well, I mean, and all those manipulations used to serve getting it done in one night, and now they serve whatever it takes 2 weeks to do.
Speaking of the system and death, that's one thing I took away from this election, that journalism is 100% dead. It's not even pretending anymore.
99% dead.
Well, mainstream. When it comes to mainstream, it's completely dead. There's because I was watching CNN and some other stuff. We're having trouble like showing it on the stream. But in the beginning, there was one guy who was trying to correct the guy, because this one guy was like, we're losing here, because he was just showing the map. And the other guy's like, yes, the Democrats are losing there. Yes. And he's like, yeah, we're losing here, but we're ahead here. Like, yes, the Democrats are losing and they're ahead there. Republicans are doing.
He's like, who are we?
And the guy's like, yeah. And then I was on Fox, Jesse Waters. We picked up this and we lost here, but we're doing real good. And it's like, dude, you're not the news. You're not reporting shit. You're literally saying, this is our side and you're representing the channel. It's obvious it's propaganda. You're not even pretending anymore. Same with like the panels they had. Christie ripped into Trump. It was well, he was honest though. It was real. The people that Trump hardcore endorsed lost. Like most of them. So they really latched onto that. They were hitting it hard. But
how much do you think that has to do with the fact that he primarily communicated with people via Twitter before they kicked him off of it? Like, how much of that had to do with the fact that they couldn't hear from him anymore as easily?
Yeah, he is shut down.
I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that he is. How do I say this? He does. I don't want to get into it, right? But he has trouble admitting when he's wrong. Number one, and he has trouble with trusting his handlers' selections. You look at all the people he appointed to do what he was supposed to be doing, and how
to me those were the problem, man.
Right? How many of them were absolutely the wrong people?
Right? They were basically like a continuation of Bush Cheney policies. Like it was largely drug and Cold Warriors left over from from sort of like a previous era of what we used to call conservative politics, right? It's, they were the people that drove me to become a libertarian, right? Like,
yeah. What's his name with the freaking walrus mustache? That he even knew that this guy just wanted to
Bolton.
More. Bolton. He knew that.
That guy is such a psychopath. Like when you look at him, he's like, you just kind of want to rip his mustache off his face. It looks fake.
Well, he just, for whatever reason, he's probably paid for it, but he just wants war. War. That's the solution to everything. It's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, and that's what we're, it's funny. That's what we're getting, regardless. I don't think you can look at the establishment either way, right? We get war, whatever we do, right? Trump was unique in the fact that he didn't start new ones, but we saw how long that lasted.
Yep. Yeah. They didn't like that. So, do you guys want to talk about, and maybe we can segue in? I hear that our special guest is going to be on at the 30 mark, maybe, but we could segue because here, I'm going to share something here. If I hope it doesn't kill my my video card. So we'll see. We will see. But I'm just going to.
I do want to make one comment because I will regret not saying this. Yes. I think Trump's selections or suggestions, nominees not winning had more to do with what you could go watch on Project Veritas today than any of that other stuff.
I don't know what you mean.
It's interesting. I think there's probably
the envelopes in the trash can, the keys on the voting boxes again. I mean, it's happening all over again.
Oh God, this actually bears raising real quick. Now that you mention it, the speech at the end of the night, right? The notion that results ought not be challenged was expressed pretty strongly by sort of the blue-colored establishment, so to speak.
And it's a current event I want to hit on before we start. There's something that no one's talking about that to me is the biggest story out there.
But anyway, I'm not insinuating, right? Like, because we can't insinuate anybody mess with the results. But you don't say that unless you think you're going to win. Now, that's sort of the way American politics works right now.
Yeah.
So,
I told Lisa in the beginning in our show, before anything was starting to count, Georgia, Arizona, and Pennsylvania are the crookedest states there are. Every election, there's always the most problems, and Pennsylvania is crooked as shit. I mean, I grew up by there. There's so much, the mob was in New York, it moved into Jersey, and then a lot of it moved into Philly, and Pittsburgh with the unions and all, and it's embedded in politics. So it's all very dirty there.
all the people that are dicks too.
But the thing I wanted to bring up is that speaking of the mob in New York, the Republican loser in New York has not conceded yet, and he is not conceding. So I think that's a definite story and something to look at, but no one's talking about that.
Cool. So
I think there might be a
segue between that stuff and the FTX stuff. So the blockchain side of it, right? So I don't know whether this is true. This is posted on Biz. You trust it for what it is. I pushed it onto Den for any commentary, but that we all know for certain that he had promised to spend $1 billion in the upcoming presidential election cycle, right? We know that he was a very large campaign donor. He's highly ranked across the board on donating to campaigns. He happened to donate primarily to Democrats. I had always thought, unrelated to this, because I didn't even know about any of that, frankly.
This guy, man, I'm sorry, but this guy is a piece of garbage. I don't know if you guys watch Bankless podcast ever.
I have a couple times.
They had him on like a couple weeks ago, and he was preaching to everybody about how crypto should be regulated. Like he was the speaker for the whole fucking crypto space. This is douchebag, right?
He's very tied into.
And all he did was just
SEC
prove again.
Yep. That's what they wanted to do forever. That even when Bitcoin started that stuff, it was questionable, and it led to where we are now, where all those people no, we have to have it. It has to be tied into the traditional markets so it can be big. Why number go up? That's the only fucking reason. They weren't thinking about
because then and only then can the people who paid for their rise to power manipulate this relatively small cap crypto markets with the very, very, very large cap traditional.
Bitcoin has been trashing him for a long time.
Like that guy, and he might think he has good intentions, but that just makes him worse. Like I hope he's evil, because if he's stupid, it's even more dangerous.
Yep.
Well,
and that's why number go up's the cancer. Again, everybody just kind of lobs. I was like, oh, it's a ton of money. It's bringing in more people. My numbers are going up. Yay.
Well,
number go up. And then, woe is me. I had all my stuff in his. Why I trusted this guy. Oh my God, woe is me.
Speaking of which, I feel like everybody in crypto deserves to have a swift nut shot at the guy, because we saw our numbers rising. Actually, the numbers were going up.
It's not just going to be crypto, because if you look at it, like when you look at the companies that were in FTX, it was Circle, BlackRock. Oh my gosh, this whole huge list. So
Novogratz had 77 million, I think.
All these like little guys, their pensions and stuff, I mean, are going to be hurt. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Like it's going to have cascading consequences.
Celsius had pensions in it, right?
Have you guys ever had an FTX account before? Has anybody here used them?
No.
I don't trade.
So if you're unfortunate enough to be a person who decided I'm gonna rely on the FTX card connection for daily life, like you woke up and your account was gone, that's pretty screwed up. Like that's some cold shit. But this guy has a lot.
I said that. I did, by the way,
very little life left to do it.
It's almost certainly a shotgun approach. If you have unlimited funds and you see crypto as a threat either to banking or liberty or currency or whatever your goals are in your group, what are you going to do? That's what that definitely is what Facebook's crypto was about. Why? You get grandmas in it. You do all these other things like, oh, I made a mistake. And, maybe Zuckerberg gets
Everybody's
shamed.
playing for custodial, the power that custodial leverage.
Now everybody in the world knows, crypto stole my grandma's life savings. That's what it's about.
Here's a conspiracy for you. What if this fellow, who is completely, like, massively embedded in the system, like you said, was this number 2 contributor to the current former vice president, this was all opera. This was all a show to bring in Binance, the biggest of us, cryptos that know, but the normies don't know who it is. But bring that into it so everybody knows what it is. And then
Sean, remember the picture of Jamie Dimon and CZ that you and I showed on the show?
This happens, and this is like, oh, we really need some regulation. Look at how
bad.
Look at how
much like a diamond
we
assault
need the government to step in now. This is serious.
And
Bix came on my show. Yeah, Bix came on my show last night and tied together. He's like, "Hey, conspiracy girl, let me drop some information on you." And he tied together. He's like, "Look into Alameda Research." He's like, the head of Alameda Research, which is this Caroline Ellison. Her dad, I guess, was the head of MIT, or the CEO of MIT, was Gensler's boss.
Mm-hmm.
And all of this is together. And then Deaton was like, "Hey," on Twitter yesterday, "Can anybody let me know, do some research and check out how many times Gensler visited FTX last year?" And somebody posted like all these meeting times.
Wow.
So
surprise.
It's one of those things when you find out like Hillary Clinton's husband is like Soros's nephew or some crazy stuff.
Well, can I say something? Because apparently Gensler wouldn't meet with Ripple, right? That was one of the big gripes. We they had that open call back in 2018.
Right.
If you want to talk to us, come talk to us. We came and we said, "Hey, we want to talk to you." And I will tell you, the guy about it, he had a shit fit on the phone trying to get off the phone. He's like, "Oh my God, I don't know if I can talk to you." And then they called our attorneys, who tried to act like I was in trouble for trying to respond to their call for talks, right?
Oh, yeah, that wasn't on the level. That was a trap.
Well, that's what, with the very DAO, we just filed our amicus in the Ripple SEC versus Ripple case. And we talked about, multiple FOIAs and requesting an NIL, and that we got no response until they called our attorney and then had prosecuting lawyers on the phone call, which I guess is not standard, admonishing us and telling, which is lawyer talk for threatening.
That's
telling
screwed
us
up, man.
That we shouldn't handle a security, unregistered security. But that's after they went through and attacked Reggie with Very. They mentioned the token in the allegations. They had every opportunity to mention the token in the settlement. They don't mention the token in the settlement, right, specifically, on purpose. Then when we ask for guidance, they ignore us, refuse us. Then they threaten us.
Mm-hmm.
And
it dovetails into
unbelievable.
It dovetails into the library.
Everybody's story. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have explored it, but I've explored it at length, and ostensibly, right, what they've done. You guys, who thinks I should explain the Howey test briefly before I get into why what they ruled was fucked up? Because you might, if you're not familiar with the Howey test, the rough idea is, even if you're buying something that could be productive in a way that has nothing to do with financial assets, like orange groves. This is an orange grove case, right? People are buying fractional ownership of an orange grove, right? And the screwed up thing about what the ruling basically said is that not only are is this like the Orange Grove case, but this is like the thing that makes the Orange Grove case apply here is the fact that the oranges themselves were sold on the secondary market at grocery stores, and so everybody who bought them turned it into a security. Like, grocery stores could sell in this circumstance, in the original Howey precedent, fucking unregistered securities by selling oranges, by the way they reasoned it through. and it's ridiculous. It's an overreach that is, if people could,
you can look at anything
it,
at a grocery store,
especially
when we look at what happened with the
welcome,
Yes,
John Deaton.
it's like let's surprise guest John Deaton.
Hey,
hey, what's up?
So
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So we're going over FTX. We're going over the secret meetings with Gensler, and
so you don't have much to talk about today, huh?
There's
nothing going on.
A lot going on.
Everybody's just happy.
Yeah, it's insane. But
Alameda Research.
Hey, but everyone rest assured, because the developer who wrote code for Tornado Cash, he's in jail though. So
still in jail under no charges.
Yeah,
right.
So I mean, everybody should relax. The government's in control. They're protecting us.
They are.
Yeah, it's a very protective boot on your neck. Don't feel like it's loving.
I just Jake Travinsky from the Blockchain Association had tweeted out that there was fear that Sam Bankman-Friedman was close to a deal with regulators in the SEC, that was going to hurt crypto. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the government shuts down FTX and because they never act, they always react, and they always react too much and overextend their authority. But I wouldn't be surprised if they go in now, shut everything down, because they want to try to control the narrative.
Right.
Because it'll be
then they want to use a broad brush.
Congressman Tom Emmer tweeted out that he's very interested about that meeting that took place between FTX and Sam and Gary Gensler. And the crazy thing about it is, I had tweeted out 2 days ago, as soon as this went down, I tweeted out, and I swear to God, I don't know Gensler's calendar off the top of my head, but I said, somebody check his calendar, because I won't be surprised to be that guy has got the ear of our regulators. And lo and behold, they met, they had detailed discussions, and if you watch today's clip of Gensler when Andrew Ross Sorkin questions him, he gets uncomfortable. You can visibly see when they ask the question about that meeting, he gets uncomfortable. So, but
John, if they come in and take control in looking out for the people of FTX, when they did that and swatted Reggie with Veritasium and set up the Very Fair Fund, it's been, I think, over 3 years now, and not a single person has been restored or made whole through the Very Fair Fund. That money is still sitting in the SEC. So how does that protect the people in any way?
Well, it doesn't. It's just, they don't. We have a broken system. Why would Sam think that he could even, come close to a deal? Like, why?
If I went to a meeting with Gensler, right, I'd bring a wreath of garlic to put around my neck.
He's the second. I think he's the second highest donor to the Democratic Party this year. I think he spent over $31 million just on political contributions. I mean, what does that do? What that does is that buys you access to Gary Gensler, right? I represent 75,000 XRP holders. They won't even send a low-level guy that was hired yesterday at the SEC to talk about the interest of these individual holders and how they shouldn't be involved, in the crosshairs of the fight between the SEC and Ripple. And they won't even meet, they won't talk. But this kid under 30, whatever his age is, because he's donating $31 million, he gets to sit with the chairman of the SEC.
Right.
And that's not the only connection. But
how familiar are you with his DXY scandal connections?
Yeah, he also met with the Treasury and the CFTC. So you've got this guy who clearly, the Wall Street Journal just reported that there were $16 billion in individual people's funds that he took 10 billion of the 16 billion and gave it to Alameda Research to gamble.
Yeah.
Right? To gamble. That's what it is.
Right. Oh, yeah, no.
And this is the guy who's meeting with the chairman of the CFTC, the chairman of the SEC, and the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury. It's just mind-boggling.
Oh, yeah.
Mind-boggling. Well, I mean, because he knows that he can engage in regulatory capture. He can capture our regulators and get legislation that favors him and his entity and hurts the rest of us.
Well, exactly. All he needs is a deal, right? All he needs is a deal. The situation is always who can sell out to these guys in exchange for giving them a lever with which to protect their status quo power structures, right? Like this is Gensler too. Like this guy, you guys, do a lot of people remember the early 2000 or 2010s DXY manipulation scandal when Gensler was chair of the CFTC? He walked away from that clean. Yep. Even though if you dig into it, the only reason for that was they had friends in justice, right? This guy owes favors to powerful people who are still in power.
Yeah, Gensler was the guy who is the youngest partner in the history of Goldman Sachs.
Right.
Was considered a child prodigy, but he couldn't figure out how to access his email at home, his work email from home. Right. So it tells you, but hey, while he's highlighting Kim Kardashian at 1.3 million, while he's meeting with Sam and the rest of the fraudsters, don't worry, he's attacking Dragon Chain, he's attacking Library, he's attacking Ripple, Very, whoever, that's his agenda. And so it's disgusting, and people got to be tired of it. And
they're just after the part of crypto that's actually legit.
We better be ready, by the way, when normies come in. We better be ready when normies come in and take the because they're going to put out the this narrative that all of crypto is bad and it needs to go away. And we, people watching this show pretty much
they're going to say, look at FTX, and then they're going to attack decentralization.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
They've been doing that for years. I mean, they were saying that Bitcoin was only used for human trafficking and drugs, the Silk Road, all this.
Yep. That was our first.
When you look at the facts,
at Disney,
paper dollars have been used.
I proposed to run a Bitcoin node so that we could make the first ever hybrid chain, right? And that was, one of the brass came back with that. Oh, but it's used for drugs and beheadings and it's like, no.
Well, that's I think that's just the evolution of knowledge. I think when it comes to crypto, that was the narrative, and through that basic education that's been thrown away. So I think we're just moving to different things. I think that's why it's such a huge thing that the talk about decentralization versus centralization is being talked about by like Joe Rogan, Russell Brand. People are hearing that argument and are starting to understand it.
Well, I mean, and it's so crucial because that's what this is all about, right? This is all about a new technology coming out that can replace the need for administrative regulation that can do it without the risk of corruption. And it just turns out
that just have to boil it down to the
what
bare
their money is all about.
Basics. That knowledge is power and strength, and that people who don't have it are weaker for it and will be preyed upon. So people need to just have the basic knowledge of decentralization versus centralization and know
what
the risks are different.
The danger in centralization when there's corruption and this nepotism that's going on. Caroline Ellison, the daughter of the head of MIT, Caroline Ellison's with the Alameda Research. Well, then how does it all, if people could see it, people are so visual. If somebody could draw the spider web, the map, and show how that is all centralized, that 6-family tree, then maybe the public would see, oh, that's what centralization is. That's what we're trying to get away from. They that have the power that enslave all of us.
But like you can look at today's youth, and just see how they're just turned off by capitalism. But they're not. They're turned off by crony capitalism.
Yeah, we don't have capitalism.
They don't know the
anymore,
difference.
Really.
They don't
Except
know
in
the
small
difference
pockets.
because they're not. They don't have that knowledge.
Yeah.
The
You know,
education.
it's literally centralization. If it was we the people,
Right.
and it was a decentral, and we were ruled by the people, it was more decentralized. It would be
even the word capitalism
not the
itself,
perfect thing, but the best we've ever created.
Right. Even the word capitalism itself was a weasel word back in the day, right? Like what we were really talking about once upon a time was free versus controlled and planned markets, right? And free markets are what crypto was based on originally, and that's really what they're offended by, like the notion that there could be a thing that could nullify efforts to tamp down on free markets.
Well, that's what the video
is
that Gensler says in his class at MIT. He tells his students that there are mechanisms in place to stop anyone coming in for the next 15 years or whatever. I can't remember his exact words. And he says, if you want to be successful, if you have a business that you build, you need to either give them a token or give them 30 to 50% of your business, because they will stop innovation, which goes against, I believe it's the Hobbs Act.
They will try to stop innovation.
Yeah, but there are mechanisms in place, just like you said. He literally says these words, teaching on video in a class at MIT. And then I'm like, you know what? You would be great as the next head of SEC. You are just a great candidate.
In fairness, though, like it sounds like we're talking doom and gloom here, guys. But to everybody out there, right? History teaches us that you can't stop innovation. You can try to slow it down, but ultimately you get plowed under if you resist it too hard. The side that wins is the side that pushes the world forward.
Yeah,
but
the problem with this is
there's a lot of sad stories, man. Me and Lisa have been talking about Tesla and what he did in the 1800s, the 18 damn hundreds. He sent electricity wirelessly to those fairs, which were far and away marvels of stuff that was built today. They had moving sidewalks. They had Jetsons technology in the 18 damn hundreds. And all the power was sent wirelessly. They had over 3 million light bulbs when the entire city of New York had less than 20,000. And it was all sent wirelessly. And we are just now today starting to get to that level of technology. Basically up in the dark ages, figuratively and literally, because of that. You know, so when technology gets stomped on, it hurts us as a race.
Right. There's actually a fun fellow on the internet that I follow on Twitter who put together a replication of that Nikola Tesla tech, the long range wireless power. The only downside of it is to getting it to work with data. Apparently, like we could have Wi-Fi or we could have wireless power.
Yeah,
but it's a similar frequency band.
RF, right? So
yeah,
no, and I would tend to disagree. I think the jury is still out on whether innovation can survive. Now, I happen to think that blockchain has a very unique aspect where we have essentially Satoshi has essentially put the ability to self-drive into software. That's a very interesting application of software, and that's the real core value of all of blockchain. And it's scary as hell to the powers that be, because that could upset all of their money flow, and more importantly, history, information flow. I think it's the only key advantage we have against an Orwellian future is the ability to
but
make
that goes
history,
to Garlinghouse
unchangeable. And so I don't know. I don't know, because I know what we've been through, and I know that had I known this, I would have either never done this Dragon Chain, or I would have made sure that we didn't follow the rules directly,
or
because
did
I
it
know
outside of the U.S.
there is no justice.
Right.
Justice is false.
Right. Attempting to collaborate is how you get caught in the trap.
Well, Gary Gensler answer today was the same talking points that he's been saying for a year. Come in and talk with us, and we'll register you. Come in and talk to it. What's sad is, I get asked questions by entrepreneurs now, and I'm gonna just admit it. I admit that I say absolutely no fucking way do you cooperate with the SEC.
Right.
You just don't.
Right. So,
You know, if
like,
you don't destroy evidence or anything like that. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying if they send you a subpoena, you answer it. But do not walk in there. Do not volunteer. If they send you volunteer, letters of request for you to volunteer information, nope.
Right.
Okay.
It's the same thing as a door knock with a cop without a warrant, right?
Say. Talk to my lawyer. Talk to my lawyer.
Frankly, you know what we should be doing. I mean, maybe 4chan Biz should be doing this, but it's like they're not my army. But why wouldn't we just go in with, hey, I'm going to make a trading card company, and these appear to fit into those same guidelines. I'm going to register this as a security with you. I'm going to basically follow the pattern of Beanie Babies, and I'm going to release these scarce items, and they're going to go up in price, and everybody knows they're going to go up in price, and so therefore they would be security. So I'm going to register all of them. Why aren't people going and just flooding them with that stuff?
Because
how do I register my baseball cards?
Honestly, Joe, I've talked about this. Me and Lisa talked about this. The SEC could literally go in and arrest like savvy 8-year-olds who buy an extra pack of Pokemon cards for the idea that I'll sell those and I'll play with.
A friend of mine, his 5 and 6-year-old kids started a project called poo.eth, and they made some money off of it. Like they were NFTs.
But when you're talking about these evil people, even if going to them, we talk about stuff as a joke, but literally, what if they could make it work and just increase their power by 100-fold to literally control kids, to make it you want to that next round of Pokemon cards, now we have to jump through legal loopholes. Now we have
I don't know if kids can comply with ESG standards though.
Well,
I just think it goes right to
is there a different rule for under 18s for accredited investor? If you're under 18, but you have at least $10,000 in the bank, or maybe your lawn mowing gets you however many hundreds a month.
You just have to cut in their guardian ad litem for 50% or more, right?
That's you're making a joke, but I see like bureaucrats like drooling, watching this. Like
every bureaucrat.
Right.
Every
increase our whole budget. We could increase
should be
all
shamed
of our power
when they drive into their neighborhood. All of their neighbors should point at them and say that bastard he works on my dime, makes more money than I do, and what does he do? The
bottom line is these people are cops, right? It's just like when you get pulled over, or someone knocks on your door. Do they have a warrant? If they did, they wouldn't be asking nice to talk to you. They will only ask nice if they need you to be complicit in tying you into it.
It's all power. So that's the thing. Was FTX, was that more of the traditional side, him trying to get a regulatory moat to get an advantage with his connections, or was he an intentional plant in order to destroy the industry as a whole?
Right. Is he a fall guy who intentionally was setting up a collapse that could be politically useful?
He could have even been not in the know on that. He could have been told, no, you do this, you use these connections this way, but in the end.
Well, and it's hard to believe that, because you would have to be one cold person to hire all those people. I feel bad for their employees, right? Like they have a team that is now without a family. Like the thing that they were building has been revealed to be a big fat lie, and that's just sad, right? Like, how could this guy be not investigated when projects like Library and Ripple, who are not engaging in bullshit like that, they're being taken down, right? Like it doesn't make any sense to me unless you have a corrupt system.
Yeah, John, how precisely, because I don't know enough about the amicus or amicus brief purposes, how precisely, how normally are those used? Because if the regulator, the other party, isn't even wanting to engage yet, there are a whole bunch of others that have been filed recently, right? With the Ripple case. How is that supposed to work, and how is it actually working?
Well, I mean, it's unusual to get. I think we're at 13 amicus briefs. And that's unusual, especially at the district court level. Remember, this normally amicus are getting involved when it's on appeal and you're at the Second Circuit or the First Circuit or the U.S. Supreme Court. That's when you really get amicus. So at a district court level, to have 13 amici is exceptional. And it just goes to show you the extent of what the SEC is doing here. And it's clear that this is being used as a test case, right, to absolutely for the SEC to engage in a unconstitutional jurisdictional land grab of this industry. That's what it is. Because if it was about enforcing U.S. securities laws, they would have pled the case differently. They would have said, when you gave an option contract to this investor, you knew he was going to probably sell it after price appreciation. So even though he's an accredited investor, we consider this subterfuge to really make an offering. And that was an unregistered security in 2014, right? And that's how they would plead the case. But instead, they literally pled the case that all before, all today, and all tomorrow are unregistered securities. I mean, there's a paragraph in the complaint that says, in case XRP is deemed a currency by some country in the future, it will be because of the efforts of Ripple, and therefore even those sales. And they're talking about in another country where they don't even have jurisdiction. Right. That's the arrogance. The arrogance is that we're gonna just completely forget the sovereignty of another nation, and we're gonna deem that a security. I mean, that's what's
we're gonna expend our own sovereignty, right?
Well, that's how the U.S. works.
Just like Assange.
I remember I was talking to John.
He's not even an American citizen, and we're suing him, or we're going to imprison him under the Espionage Act.
Well, I remember I was talking to John when he was
back in other countries, not from here.
And he was talking about how cruise ships aren't allowed to stop in Cuba and go to Cuba. Cruise ships that are their whole company is based in the different country, not the United States. That they're owned and operated by other countries that are not the United States. But the United States just says, no, you can't go there and you can't interact with them. And they just are like, okay, fine.
Well, it's what the SEC did they went to the Jamaican Stock Exchange behind Reggie's back when Reggie went to the SEC to work with them openly, to be very forthcoming. And so they had that information. So then they went behind his back and went to the Jamaican Stock Exchange and told them not to work with Reggie and shut it down. I
have a question for Greg, because in the Constitution, me and Lisa read this. It talks about, because I said
the preamble.
I said that it said it's your duty. It's a citizen's duty to throw off the government, and it does say that
tyrannical government,
right? And but it specifically says that if they start making laws that are not by the people that the people voted in. So how does the SEC exist? How does the ATF exist? How do these entities exist to create laws?
Yeah, and this is actually this is if you guys want to talk about the thing that people call the deep state, this is where it comes from, right? The idea originally was that the legislature doesn't have enough time or expertise to deal with technical topics that are emerging in modern society, and therefore we need to honor a system by which the legislature passes an enabling act. And this enabling act says we're going to give, under these specific circumstances, our powers as defined here, following these procedures we defined, and we're going to give it to these people that we're going to have the executive appoint, and they're going to run it. And we're going to, ever since Chevron, at least, we're going to defer to them in how we interpret, or in how they interpret the law that we wrote. To the limits of their power, they get to interpret their power, and we're going to presume that they are being fair about it. But it's ultimately the means by which we've sort of built our own hell here, right? Like the thing that needs to happen is that we need to realize if the legislature can't do it, it ought not, and that if their calendar is too filled up already, then we need to either rewrite the Constitution to add more legislators, or we need to limit ourselves to the amount of things we can get done with the representatives we have. That was the whole point. The thing that we lost was that the size of government was scoped by the Constitution, and this is an end run around it.
And too many of them are controlled. I mean, that's the other. You bring it back to the election integrity question as well. That really what's needed is for Congress to do something for once about this. To pull it back and say.
But they become more of a distraction that these people use, right? Because the thing about administrative law is that the agencies can be captured.
Well, when Gensler won't even show up in front of.
Gensler's just somebody's stooge, right? We don't know who, because
I know, but
that part is
as somebody's
well
stooge, he has
covered
enough power to tell the Senate, to tell Congress to, he's not going to show when they call him in, right? It's kind of crazy.
But if we can see who was really pulling his strings.
And I'll tell you about pulling the strings. And I don't know. This is just from an attorney that I talked to in 2018, a former commissioner, right? Stand-up guy. He said, he told me, he was at the time one of probably 3 to 5 former commissioners or former people inside there that he knew that would go to these events that were pro-crypto. Everybody else would go off and talk about how, this is evil, we need to stop it. They were all lobbied against, and that was the thing. Well, they all get lobbies, but here's the thing: they all go literally to these cocktail parties, chum around, figure out what's going on, probably figure out, they're paying you to do, maybe cut me in over there. Whatever the hell they do behind the scenes, that's the shit that goes on by these bureaucrats that we're paying, and it's all against us. What are they doing?
Right, well,
it's like, these crypto
this is what
people.
It comes down to, right?
Well, these crypto people are all of a sudden rich. They're now accredited investors. We can't have that. We need to increase it to 25 million because these people made too much money with inflation. We need $25 million if you want to invest in these. Well, and who do you think that comes from? Is that protecting us?
This is a philosophy. Crazy. This is an undercurrent, right? Like this is a long thing, right? Ludwig von Mises, whose friends called the last night of liberalism, right? He called it for what it was. There's no middle way here, right? There's the belief that people can freely and peacefully collaborate together to build value for one another by engaging in willing transactions. And then there's the idea that people need to be forced to do what's best for them. And you have to pick a side, right? You have to side with, do we aim guns and demand order, or do we work together to build value? And the world we're living in today is the product of a long history of the side of force over free exchange winning. Like ultimately, we need to recognize that the only way we get out of this is to shift back the other way big time.
Or do we aim guns to have libertarian values? But I think, look, man, I've said this, and I know it's not nice, but we didn't get this country by voting for it. We didn't get this country by talking. We didn't end slavery in our own country by voting for it or talking. We had. Well,
we really get it? Did we really get it when we got it?
Well,
or how much of this? How much of this is still the influence of?
My point is that
powerful money lords.
It's always took violence. And we've messed it up, dude. We've messed up the country. We've screwed it up so bad. I don't think we can fix it. And Glenn,
I don't think people
Glenn Beck said it,
but we might have forced
the other night during the he closed with it. It was a really wonderful speech he did. But we're watching the repeat of history. I've said this. We've all said this. You can look at Rome. You can look at Greece. You can look at all of these empires that fell, and we're literally with our art, with values, with everything. It's mirroring it. And he said throughout history, the one thing we can learn, it's never been turned around ever.
Well, yes.
And that's what he said. But I think the only way is to tear it down and rebuild it, man. I really do.
Okay. So, why would we rebuild it? The question is, what do we build back? What do we have after we, if we could get rid of it, how much of it would you replace? And I think you replace maybe 10% of it. if that.
Well, honestly, if you want to talk about voting, I think things have to be radical. I think we need executions for corruption. Corruption, dude. I think that they're not scared. They're not even scared of going to jail. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, they were scared to get, yanked out of their office and hung. At least 20, 30 years ago, they were scared of going to jail. Nobody goes to jail now.
You guys keep saying we, but I was not involved in the resurrection of any of these current structures. So
whatever structures they don't fear anything. Yeah. I think we need to make corruption, the crime of it, like
it's
treason.
It is treason.
You talk about stigmatizing things. I think we need to stigmatize corruption, just like it's like pedophilia.
All right, guys.
Like when you talk about corruption, it's like, oh, that's bad.
We have that right now, and that's what they're lynching people by, right? Like that's what library got lynched by is the corruption police.
Hey guys,
right?
Joe, I want to make a plug. I say a plug. All free. I don't have sponsors, but on my cryptolaw.us, there's a connect to Congress button. Okay, and so while I was talking to you, I came up with a message, and all people have to do is they go and they hit the connect to Congress button, and there's a message that I just dictated, right? And it will immediately, as soon as you hit send, it takes less than 30 seconds. It'll go to both senators from where you live and your representative. And this is the new message today. The SEC's job to protect investors, but Gary Gensler has failed to protect retail digital asset holders over and over. Now, evidence has emerged that proves that Gensler met with the master of what may be one of the biggest frauds in American history, Sam Bankman-Fried, before the $14 billion collapse of FTX. Members of Congress have already been informed, alleging that Gensler was working with Bankman-Fried to get a regulatory free pass and establish a crypto monopoly. This is not the first time Gensler has been under an ethical cloud, like when he was the subject of an inspector general investigation as chairman of the CFTC. It's time for a full congressional investigation of Gensler's possible role in one of the biggest financial frauds in American history. I strongly urge you to write to the committee overseeing the SEC and demand that an immediate investigation be started. The American people deserve nothing less than the truth. That's going to be the message.
Yes.
It's been written.
Absolutely.
Right? It takes less than 30 seconds. It'll go to both congressmen. It'll go to both senators, and it'll go to your House representative.
Put the link in the description.
That was a very Aaron Schwartz maneuver of you, by the way. That first time I heard of that tactic.
Well, I when I was looking down and on my phone, I didn't want you to think I was being rude. I really was like writing and trying to word zone. But I appreciate you having me on. I got with a client. I'll be talking to you guys soon. All right. Thank you.
I'll be sharing that link, by the way, guys, on my.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm going to put it in my description of my videos too.
Thank you, guys. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Thank you.
John's great. See, there are some attorneys out there that are doing things philosophically that are radically important, right?
Right.
So,
well, to a certain degree, right? I think this is why I'm optimistic, right? Like, it's easy to be pessimistic right now, but but to a certain degree, it's sort of like you guys watched the Hobbit series when they made those, right? There's that scene where the female elf tells Legolas, like, when did we let evil become stronger than us? We're stronger than these guys. There are more people who want good to happen than there are bad. We just need to stop being afraid.
Yep, I agree. And it's just, and that is a lot of it. When people say, repeat whatever they hear on CNN or MSNBC about how the crypto world is all corrupt, you say, well, the parts of the crypto world that tend to be working with Wall Street and the U.S. federal government do tend to be corrupt. We can see that.
FTX isn't a crypto company; it's a Wall Street bank.
Right.
They're just new kids on the block.
What I think one of the biggest things that have happened over the past decade is that the definition of being involved, the definition of doing something, in air quotes, but I'm so lazy I don't want to do the air quotes, has changed. to where
Right,
like he just said,
not
like
urging
sending
people to do
that
something.
email, that is a actual act. But most
Right, it
people
is.
like, oh, I posted a meme on my personal social media. That's controlled by Facebook or Twitter or whoever. They'll pick who can see it.
Right,
But
the algorithm is already suppressing it.
It's literally like, you know, Ralph from The Simpsons, like, I helped. That's the idea people have. You know,
Right.
people.
But I'm not really trying to say that people need to do
anything.
stuff. I'm saying that people need to be for stuff. They need to be unafraid to be for stuff. You know, like it's like, you know, there's certain people that
it is scary though,
I'm
Greg.
like
I mean,
this.
I'm getting threatening letters already, you know.
Also, just cancel culture in general.
But the more that we stand up together, they can't come after all of us.
Right, they can't get all of us.
Government. People have been empowered to stop people from standing up. You know, it used to be, because there used to be discussion. Me and Lisa talked about this on our show, that I remember a day when like someone was a racist and you couldn't ask them about it at work. It's like they did their job, and if it got in the way of their job, but it was like anything that was their private life, you couldn't ask. This is work.
As long as they kept it private, right?
Yeah, that's my private life. You don't ask about my private life. But as long as you do your job and you treat everyone right, and like you know, you had to keep it separate. But you weren't allowed to mess with someone's privacy. Privacy was such an important thing before, to the point where it didn't matter what someone's views were, because it was their views. And if you attack theirs, then someone could attack yours. And we understood that. And now it's gone.
That's because they've turned the idea of individualism into a pejorative, right? Like they like to throw the word rugged in there, and they like to think that the way they're intoning implies West Virginia backcountry as opposed to Washington D.C. As it was founded, right? Like this is not a fringe idea. This is an idea that we've all been made to feel as fringe. The majority of people in this country still feel this way.
Even, I mean, they do try to these days also. When you have the radical amount of corruption that we've witnessed and we actually know about now, it's not even just people speculating. It's really there, and people call it out. Now it's treated as, you can't be so hateful, and like they talk about the discourse getting, and you look back historically at what politicians that we now love and respect, like Jefferson, what the types of political discussions that went on in those days, and they would make us look like
Mr.
Rogers.
Look at go back and search the Internet Archives for articles written in the 90s, even in popular magazines like Wired or TechCrunch, and you will read something that will feel like an academic paper to you. It's pages long, vocabulary you sometimes have to look up. Like we used to actually not intentionally self-censor our intelligence. And now we have this prevailing myth that people are too stupid to be talked to on the level, and it's just a bullshit lie. Every single person who has ears and eyes that work well can have a conception of, or even don't work well at all, have a conception of really complex ideas. That's human nature, right? We just have to believe in ourselves enough to take it back, and that is a personal act that nobody's stopping.
That's one thing Cosby was very, very against, and he's a terrible person to bring up, but he was always about education, and I remember when people would talk street or jive or whatever, it's been changed over the years. He would say, don't talk that way. Why would you talk that way? Use big words, use proper words, make yourself sound smarter than the other person.
Right? At least use both. Like if you're gonna make cultural statements, then make cultural statements. If it's sort of a display of creativity and how you tweak language publicly, great, do that. But don't be afraid to also understand all of the words that you can and to use them. Like your words are your weapons.
By the way, this election, all the AP, everything, all of those candidates were Democratic candidates, like in print and writing.
Sean, I even heard somebody say Democrat and then correct themselves to say Democratic.
Yeah, it's
so there's something there.
They've changed it. It's 100% now, And that's psychological, dude. If this is a Democratic senator, what's the other senator? What's the person? It's not Democratic. It's all part of the democratic process. I've been saying that for
it's lexical
years.
too. Like, how do you get a third party in there? If the two ways one can think about the balance of power in politics is Republican, they prefer the Republic mode.
And we talked about that on our election show. I think that we've gotten to the point where libertarians and independents, we don't have the luxury of that anymore. Before, it's like, hey, I'm going to vote libertarian just because I'm so pissed off at whatever the conservative, person.
I think we need to change the notion of voting.
And now,
altogether.
When people are losing by 1%, and libertarian or independent gets 3%, and literally that would have meant the difference between radical leftist progressive kind of crazy stuff and even normal middle of the road, not even conservative, but just normal middle of the road government. It's not working, man. That's we don't have the luxury of trying to send that message anymore. We really don't.
Well, I don't really think that voting protects a free society very well. I think it's actually, it was a pretty good solution for the time when our technology was less capable and people had to travel a long way to do it. When there were fewer votes to count, all of that was like sort of the best possible solution in a worst possible world. We could do better. Like, there are better solutions. Like, who says that we have to vote for people? Why can't we appoint people and have them send us referenda to vote on?
Yeah.
Why can't we do random selection
and
have them send us referenda to vote? I think that would be a way.
That is, if you read enough Victor Davis Hanson, you quickly realize that democracy is not what we've been sold it to be. That in fact, the early founders didn't want a democracy.
That's afraid of it.
Yeah,
that's why the Senate was set up the way it was, and that's why the presidency was set up the way it was. They wanted a republic because historically, democracies usually lead to tyranny, either in whole or in part. Because you end up with, it's so easy, literally, for a demagogue to come in and foment the masses to be against something or somebody.
Or a slavagogue, right? There's the slavagogue too that pretends to listen and agree with what people are saying.
And yet and that's the other thing too. I do agree with Sean, and I think there's no way around it coming. We're either going to go one way or the other, full on tyranny, which I kind of, to be positive, I think it's probably not likely, given the Second Amendment is still there.
They've already lost, man.
But that I hope so. But there will.
It went too far.
It's just a necessity with human culture that you have. People can feel justice in their blood. They know if something is not just.
Greg made an interesting.
There's going to be something for all the treason that's been going on.
I want to talk about this for 1 second.
Rope? Is it what is it? Right? I don't know what it is.
Greg made a comment there. They went too far with the lockdown. They did, and now they know it. And there's this thing that was starting called COVID amnesty.
We're not
especially
doing that.
For like the police and other things. And there's a video that I posted, and it's I
saw too many
McDonald's worker or it was someone in a restaurant, and they choked out a person because they didn't have a mask. They choked them out, threw them down,
and then forced the mask on.
They've done, and the thing was that they want amnesty because they were all caught up in it. And dude, that's like the Nazis. Well, we're following orders. You're not even a soldier, man. You're a barista. You're flipping burgers. You wanted to hurt someone. You're a bad person, and you were given the slimmest bit of power and the slimmest opportunity, and you took it for all it's worth. Those people need to be held accountable. They need to be held accountable for what they did. Police too.
Needs to be aired. It needs to be put on a big screen. They need to be made to answer for what they did. I want to see every single one of the Victorian police that were captured on video doing things like arresting a pregnant woman before her ultrasound, or getting a boot on the neck of a guy who did. Like, there were people just be standing around a shopping mall. A cop would run out of the side of the screen and throw them on the ground like it was a getting punked video.
In Canada, they were taking
show, except for
people empty gas cans that they like. This is your property that you own. You're just walking. Why? Because we're told to.
Right.
Why?
And they'd still be doing it if they could have gotten away with it.
So there needs to be a reckoning, because if it happens again, then they need to know. I'm not doing that, dude. No,
Right.
you
We
remember
don't need to give them
Frank?
another iteration. They might actually get it right next time if we let them try again.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
so right now,
Well,
but I also don't think that the answer can be violence. I don't think we have. I don't think
very easy to read. They swore an oath to a constitution that is exceedingly easy to read. It's not like they have to read all of the, you watch on YouTube, you can see cops that don't even know the actual law.
Yeah, I did a show on that. That there's police, there's military that don't know the Constitution, and they swore an oath to it. I think this. Things are rough, man, financially for me. I took a job for the devil. I'm back in the financial services industry.
Oh, no.
And I'm a financial advisor again. It's really, and COVID changed the rules on that. Most regulated thing in the world. Now I can do it from my house, which is just very weird. But what was I talking about? Oh, there are people that have taken an oath, and I have to do like education every 2 years, like 40 class hours, and to always be up on all current laws and all past laws to just prove that I remember them. And I think that police and military, if you don't know the Constitution, that literally you put your life on the line to uphold, you shouldn't be able to do it. You should have to have a refresher course every 2 years just to prove you know what you've sworn to uphold.
That's true. Frankly, if war crimes were to ever, that should be, did you actually have these people? Did you know that they knew what they were swearing an oath to, right? Because if they don't, then I think you're liable for whatever the hell they're doing.
I was just following orders. Has never been a valid excuse, right? Like this, you can't just say that that's what I was told to do, and you can't just say that's what we believe is right at the time. If you do evil believing it's right, it's still evil, right? Like it's still. If you hurt people, it doesn't matter if it's for a good cause in your mind at the time, and then you later find out you're wrong. Like you don't get forgiven for your good intentions if you hurt people with your good intentions. It's just not the way that it works. And it's not the way that we can have a stable society that works together peacefully. Like we can live in a peaceful world. We don't need this bullshit.
And frankly, that's the other
all
side.
These people who have problems with how their neighbors live.
Yeah,
right?
And that's a lot of it too. I mean, and some people, haven't done evil, but they've, I guess, there's some passive amount of guilt there, in my opinion, because as obvious as it is, if you want to look into it at all, and we have the freaking internet now, you can see that CNN's lying to you, that MSNBC's lying to you, that CNBC's lying to you. You can see that the entire press is lying to you. Right. It's hard to find out what is true. You can't trust everything, right? But the fact that you can go and look and then look up stuff is super interesting. And like, everybody has family members that they'll repeat whatever PBS told them that morning. And you're like, well, no, that's not.
Well, it's a good thing that they don't do anything other than talk, because if they did, they might be dangerous.
But that's the thing. I even think that people who let that type, it's like poison. It would be like in the 50s, I don't know. It's just like degenerate poison for citizenry. That's what it is. It's easy. They get to feel like they're smart because they know that, the Ukraine, Putin bad, Zelensky good. That's all it is, right?
Right.
It's crazy.
When in reality, there's a long history that if you look at it, you realize this is not so simple.
Right. It's not simple at all. I don't know. I'm not gonna say either side is good there, but
exactly.
There's a lot of really bad stuff that happened in that area.
I mean, most people don't know that like General Lee was against slavery.
Yeah.
And Grant was 100%, for it.
Right.
But you'll tear down the Statue of
wasn't
Liberty
trying to get rid of slavery
because of what he represents, when he was actually a person that was a much better person. He was against slavery.
And
he needed a way to break the back of the economy of the South.
For what Czar 15 is saying, that's kind of why I wanted to mention that somehow, and crypto, there might be a way to do it. I don't know. Somehow we need to figure out how to stop being cattle. And I say we, I mean,
crypto's a tool, right? We can use it however we want, including how they tell us to. And that's what people were afraid of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something on current events that we should give I was positive for me is that the fact checking that Twitter is doing now on everybody.
Funny thing, I never talked about it publicly, but I was on that Birdwatch program once upon a time, like before. I somehow snuck in the back door of Birdwatch while I was still under the rule of the evils. That program's been around for a while. They just didn't expose it publicly. You can only see it if you're part of Birdwatch. Yeah,
that's interesting.
But I thought that was so really cool.
It's cool that they exposed it.
It wasn't like they took it down, but they're like, well, here's the truth, and it was like, wow, that's all right, man. That's cool.
Right. It was like the other day that
I don't know anything about this stuff at all. Right.
The other day that Biden claimed employment had gone up massively under him, and the Birdwatch thing underneath it said, well, yeah, because you first locked down the economy and then claimed massive job growth after you first made everybody stop.
He tweeted that like 50 billionaires didn't pay taxes last year, and under his new law, they're going to pay a bunch of taxes and blah blah. And then it said, well, under his current law, out of that, only like 14 will actually qualify under this, so only 14 out of the 50 will pay. So just the fact that he was called out was like, whoa. And then another one, what was it? It was something gas prices. Gas prices are lower than they were 40 years ago or something. It was like something. And then they said, well, because he said the most gas price, they look at the most, it's not the average gas price. The average gas price is way higher, but if you look at the most paid or something, it's like how many like there's 1 million 7-Elevens or so. The way the math is,
right? No, I mean, he did some weird math, and he aggregated it nationally. And the thing that you can't do is aggregate it nationally, because that's where the nonsense starts, and right? It's like trying to say the minimum wage needs to be raised because the average income of an American household is plummeted. It's like, wait a second, only how many people live on minimum wage and support a family? Like nobody. And how are wages set nationally? By the companies for the most part. This is a baseline. If you're going to compare minimum wage to something, you should compare it to minimum household income. Like it's a wrong-headed way to think about gas. Like the gas stations set the prices based on what they have to pay to their suppliers. It's got to be different everywhere.
Did you hear about they're looking at, now this is bad, that they're looking at a bill to force the price of gas. That gas stations can pay.
That would be a fun way to get shortages, wouldn't it?
Yes.
like they could arrest gas station owners if they don't comply.
Oh yeah, and do you think they'll eventually be able to arrest them for not having gas either? Because I mean that's where this goes, right? It starts to look like Atlas fucking shrugged.
The third level of clown world is when they set the prices and they refuse to sell at that price at a loss.
And then they mandate supply and punish the miners when they can't afford to dig anymore.
No, but then they're gonna arrest people for not buying the gas
Oh, exactly. If you're not buying it, then you need to buy exactly the same amount of gas you bought last year. Just like, I mean, it's Atlas shrugged. We're living in Ayn Rand's dystopia at that point.
Yeah. Wow.
So, which, by the way, if nobody's read that, they should totally read it, because it's not the book you've been led to believe it is.
That's true. That is true. I've read it a couple of times.
I own one of my favorites, but I haven't watched them
all. Yeah, no, it's super interesting, especially when you go through some of these phases, because I think even more than in the 2000s, this is it's more and more true. I mean, it's an odd thing. And the problem is,
so the question, I think the good question is, what do we do about it as people? Like what's a really good answer? Because we can't sit here and tell you to go arm up. Like that's a great way for us to actually legitimately cross the line of what's allowed by the Constitution.
And by the way, that's a good question.
There's got to be a good way to go. There's got to be a way to do this that's peaceful too.
I've wanted to post something for a while now anonymously to one of the layers just to see, hey, here's to bring you out of this world, so you don't have any emotional ties to the state or your answer. Presume that behind the scenes, evil aliens control everything, right? So that we don't know who they are, And in real life they're not aliens, but let's just pretend like whoever is controlling all this stuff are evil. What is the actual answer to break our bondage? Because that's the thing. Because we are all slaves right now.
And I believe
want to be or not, want to believe it or not, we are. And so the question is, how do you solve it? And I think Ayn Rand's solution was to stop
leave,
producing,
to stop building,
to stop feeding,
right?
To stop feeding that monster,
right? To let them force you to the extent that force can cause you to do a thing. Move to where they tell you to stand. Do physically what they tell you to do physically. Make them give you exact orders. Do not let them engage your brain.
Right. Now
that's
that
how
was
she,
what her
that's
answer
how she
is, which
said to solve it,
though, doesn't it?
But I think
like,
that hits on kind of
to.
the idea of we don't have to do it like that, right? That was a good example of a way to do it, right? But it touches on the concepts that Etienne Laboite wrote about, right? The idea that we don't have to do anything to stop them. Literally is the answer. We have to do nothing to stop them. We have to stop going along with it. As soon as we stop collaborating, if everybody stopped sending their taxes in tomorrow, they won't have money for guns to prosecute that one for very long, right? Like if we stopped going to vote, how long do you think elections would remain the faux choice that they are, right? If nobody showed up at the polls, how would they claim power?
Yeah.
Right? They wouldn't. They need us to collaborate in our own enslavement. And if we don't go along with it, game over. We just have to not take them seriously anymore.
Aye, but if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a wagon.
Well, I mean,
I just see all the sheeple, and I don't see people standing up. I see everybody with their sticker that I voted. It doesn't matter, it's all social media. I
probably didn't vote yesterday.
I did no research on the jab. I looked into nothing, but I got it. I want the sticker, and I have my selfie, and I got my my new profile picture. It's like people like that was more important. Just being, accepted and having that. People,
maybe we need to push I didn't vote stickers. So people can be, because a lot of people.
That's a good idea. We need marketing. The opt-out side needs marketing.
That is true.
If we're going to win.
There's no marketing.
That's true.
And if there is, it's not good. It's all.
I wonder how much we could raise for an I didn't vote campaign for the next election. A get out the resistance.
Yeah, I'm not going to vote.
Message. We'll get people to know who Etienne Laboite is, instead of just like people wondering how that word is spelled when I say it.
Okay,
that could work. I think there's a there. Maybe I'll make a T-shirt.
That would be nice. I like it.
I think it'd be something small.
Thank you for your feedback. That'll be $8.
Get people to stop doing something small when it comes to show the government, hey, nobody is doing this. No one is doing this one thing. People stop recycling. Whatever it is that you have to do, and you even could risk a little fine. Everyone stopped. What are we going to do? To get people to start doing that, not wearing your seatbelt. I don't know, something that's a serious protest, but not voting, because that's huge.
Right. And we could all start wearing eye masks, like the old Paul style masks. Mask up, everyone.
Yeah, everyone wears like an eye patch.
I'm teasing. I don't want to ask anybody to put anything on their face.
Don't wear your glasses.
Too much trauma there.
That's dangerous to eyes.
I mean, one thing that you can do is to resist is to not register to vote. Like if you register, you're giving them your current address. It updates their databases. Like
the Gilets Jaunes thing. That was wear yellow vest to work. Wear a yellow vest. Something like that. Something to scare.
I hadn't known that. They're required to have those in their cars.
Yeah, that was the whole part.
That's why I was like, wow, okay.
I think they're required to have two. That's when they started wearing them, because everybody had one. They're like, you got to have two. They're like, dude, I'm one person that owns a car. Why do I have to have two? And they're like, gotta have two. So then they started. That's when it started the whole thing.
The vest makers lobby. Damn.
Like I always think about what Greg said, that the riding crop people had political clout and power, and fought against the automobile. That to me, there probably is, a safety vest, lobby.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Especially,
Oh yeah.
you know, in
No,
there in
absolutely.
France. So yeah.
I mean, we got a little bit of the pandemic stuff, or we got to stop saying. I got to stop letting myself say that.
Yeah.
The
The
lockdown
gingivitis
stuff,
outbreak.
right? No, the lockdown stuff, the government overreach crisis that we just got out of. There became a mask industry, right?
Yeah.
And now all of the microplastics in the masks are filling our oceans, making the garbage island grow bigger. Like,
yeah.
And these are the same people who are like, maybe we need lockdowns and masks for when we need to stop climate change next. Like,
yeah.
they're literally destroying the
flood
planet
in Kentucky.
This bullshit.
If you look at like some of the video, there's just masks everywhere hanging from the tree.
Yep. I mean, I've
Really?
seen how many times when you go out of your house now do you see a gross ass mask lying on the ground somewhere? They were
Yeah.
all over fucking
Everywhere.
LA, man,
Yeah.
when I was there. All over it. It was gross. It was like you had to dodge it. It was like running into a wet diaper.
Horrible.
Ugh,
Man.
disgusting.
Well, we're at the 5-minute mark, and that was the whole thing there. So that was all current events.
It was fun.
2 general subjects, right? I did like it. Do you guys have anything to add? Final comments before?
I guess the one thing I would say is like John's idea to do the mass message. Go find that. Go do that. That's such a smart idea. Aaron Schwartz once led the charge to stop SOPA and PIPA, those laws they tried to put on the internet back before he got killed himself. And it was the thing that ultimately caused Wikipedia to go dark and Google to turn their page black. Like that happened because of this exact technique. So that's a really smart idea, and people should follow through on that one. But I would say, whatever you decide to do, be for something. Don't be afraid to say what you're for, because if you are afraid to be for what you actually are for, then they will win, right?
Yeah. And by the way, don't follow along with any of the cancellation stuff. I know even the stuff you want to bring it in. That was one of the things that surprised me most about what Kanye was saying in some of those interviews, that he's not going to not say what he thinks, and people should say what they think, and it should be allowed. Mm-hmm. So anyway, how about you, Sean?
Yeah.
Do you have anything there like that?
I think I Am For I Am said just maybe it's true. We gravitate towards war and violence. I think it's also true for keeping evil in check. When we move away from war and violence, or just real consequences, I think that's when evil thrives. And I think that if in 2008, look at all the bankers that went to prison. Oh my!
One guy with a small enough bank to prosecute that was not from here.
Yeah, that used to be the MO. You put out that sacrificial lamb, you put out that scapegoat, and everybody else walks away. Right. And I think now we're at the point where they don't even care about the scapegoat anymore.
Yeah.
They're just
also, do not let people tell you that FTX is a crypto company. They're a Wall Street bank.
It's pay to play. I mean, when you're a bank like Bank of America, and you make $1 billion doing something illegal, and then you're fined $200 million, that's good business. You've made money. You shareholders have made money, and nobody goes to jail. So that's the caveat. Nobody goes to jail, and nobody went to jail.
Right. As long as you're willing to pay your $1 billion speeding ticket, you can count people out of.
And by the way, not a single instance, over and over and over and over again, manipulation of markets on Wall Street. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing as like, oh, you get a slap on the wrist.
Slap on the wrist, you have to write a big check.
You don't even remember who did it. It's not even freaking.
As long as they write the big check, it's cool.
One of the best analogies I ever heard was someone told me that it was a woman, and she was dating this guy who was like super rich, and they went to have a picnic at the park, and they had like this like really nice area of the park that was all manicured, but you couldn't go on the grass. It was there's signs not allowed to go on the grass or you get a ticket, and there was like the public area for picnics was not as nice. So she was like, oh man, I wish we could go over there. He goes, okay, let's go over there. She goes, no, we're not allowed. And the ticket was like $40. And he goes, oh no, it just costs $40 to go over there. It's no big deal. And that's how that's the logic.
That's how tickets work.
Right.
That's
how
how
they
And it
say-
costs
how
$100
logic-
to speed.
Is it?
down the
It's
highway.
just I just pay to do what I want,
Right.
and that is what has to stop. I mean, there has to be real. I mean, consequences are something that is painful to the person who it's a punishment.
I don't know that it needs to stop. I think it needs to be more honest. It needs to be, hey, look, we're going to try to keep this over here cleaner, so you have to pay $100 to go into this nice grass. And some people will say, sure, some people won't.
Right, but then then the problem with that is ultimately going to be that there are people out there who don't like the framing that is a free exchange, right? Mm-hmm. It needs to come with a dose of shame from the people who control it and sit at its borders with weapons, right? Because otherwise they wouldn't be allowed to carry weapons.
It's the mindset, and what that translates into where you harm people, and that is like you can't.
And by the way, if you don't believe what Sean's saying, go read some Jefferson. Because I mean, that's the basis of our nation, of what they, the republic that they gave us that's gone by now. But what was supposed to be there, what the propaganda tells us is still there. That's the basis of it. That you can't have a government that doesn't fear its citizens without tyranny. Because that's
right. And yet, bear in mind that even while they were writing those things, we were also engaging in trade deals that involved, some of the most powerful financier lords in the British Empire, and they founded things that ultimately became like the Business Roundtable today, where like that's not the World Blockchain Roundtable. That's a bunch of bastards who control things through spend. Right? They just don't like to be in the spotlight, so you never really hear about their meetings. There are tons of organizations, the Atlantic Council, like. There are so many orgs out there of these like old school blue bloods that are probably still under the sway of English money that we borrowed.
You bring up blue bloods. I having grown up across Europe, I do not think that the aristocracy ever went away. I think that they still really operate hardcore from the shadows. Because if you live in Europe, you know who your count is. The Duke here, because they're all about philanthropy and molding and shaping their communities. Yeah. But they run shit, man. They also own all the businesses and things.
Right. In a way, we've been in a Cold War for independence ever since the Hot War for it ended.
And also, people don't know history, and like people, we wouldn't have, the North would not have won the Civil War without Mexico. Did you know that when you celebrate Cinco de Mayo, it's not for getting drunk and it's not about Mexican. They literally they weren't okay. They fought Spain. Spain sent real hardcore, nasty, soldiers, like professional soldiers. They didn't go there to quell the Mexican Revolution. That was a secondary thing. They were coming up through the South to support the Confederate Army and crush the North. Their side note, hey, we'll kill this rebellion and then move on to the South, support the soldiers and crush the North. And you know what? The Mexican rebels killed them all. They crushed them. They won. So the Confederate soldiers never got that bolster, and they lost. And nobody knows that. Everyone's like Cinco de Mayo.
There are lost pieces of history all over the place that had influence, right?
There's so much. Russia is one of the reasons we won the Revolutionary War. Catherine the Great told England to screw off. They're like, you need to back us up, and then she's like, no. All right, well, we require a minimum of 10,000 troops now. Yeah. She was like, no. They lent humanitarian aid. That's not taught. That hasn't been taught because of the Cold War. But there's so much. People, it's basically the dumbing down of people and the frightening of people.
Right.
We have
much
power.
But they're terrified of us. It's not vice versa.
We have so much power, and people need to realize that. People need to stop being scared, and it's almost become a virtue to be scared. Yeah. I have to adult today. I'm scared. I can't handle it's not cool, man. It's not cool. Nope. You have a lot of power. You have strength, and you're awesome.
Yep. And like, if you're ever uncertain, try being kind to somebody who you wouldn't normally, and you'll see.
Right. This is true. So, end of show, Greg. What's going on this week?
Shit. We are still polishing off the rough edges on the Polygon endpoint. So it's Hofstadter's law prevails, and it wasn't going to be out this week after all. But coming very soon. We're working very hard on it, and that will be happening real soon. So that's awesome. And I've also got it hasn't been released yet. I was at the LA Blockchain Summit. I got a chance to sit on a panel with the former comptroller, or the former director of the Office of the Comptroller of Currencies on one side of me, the head of AWS blockchain asking the questions, and this really ridiculously intelligent scientist to my left, who was talking about elliptic curve cryptography half the time. Really great panel, really fun stuff. I threw in a few jabs that I think a lot of people in our audience will appreciate, but I was very cordial, so they liked me afterwards.
That's good.
So if once that's out there, I'll share it so people can go watch.
Right on.
We didn't go over Solana, man. I really wanted to hit that.
We still need to talk about library too.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
The Solana, their tech is fake. They're about to crash. There's so much with that. I have a lot going on, actually. I've tried several things to grow my channel and to do stuff, and with mainstream agencies, and they all told me I was too small and screw off. Hurt my feelings. Actually, it's pretty sad. So I'm still just I'm just relegated to kind of trying to grow and do what I've been doing. I have some reviews coming out. I'm gonna try some games. My son, he told me, he's like, Dad, you really should just start doing why you started your channel, just to start going over projects that you find and that you thought were cool and that nobody was talking about. And I was like, yeah, that's actually pretty true. So I have that Tuesday show with Lisa, Truth Tuesdays. I always want to plug this show because I always do on my channel. Like on Thursdays, catch me over on Dragon Chain. But Crypto Beam review is coming this week. Please send me memes and videos. I really appreciate it.
Should be some good ones from Twitter,
Telegram, and
I'm
on
start
Twitter.
sending you some to see if you censor them.
I don't
There's
censor
some you
them.
might censor. There's some you might censor.
Only ones that have music. Because man, I'll put like the music's in it, and then it's like YouTube hits me.
Okay.
So even like there's one that I played. It's like this dude, like he's going up and then he holds a Bitcoin. He's going up in the rocket, and it's like, and I play that because it's really funny and I didn't care. But what else? That's about it. I don't have any interviews or anything coming up. I just was part of a Twitter space about an exchange from India that they're starting up. That looks interesting. It's centralized and it's like 4x and all that. I don't know. Anything to push Web3 is what kind of I was. My point is to push Web3 and to educate regular folks about its possibilities, which they don't know.
That's important.
Yeah. And what your phone could actually do if you're able to connect to Web3 and actually have apps and dApps that.
And it's all the power of the internet, but more, right? Like it's all the power that the internet could have.
And there's people that don't even know it exists. So,
Right. Yep.
Yep.
I guess one more thing I would always have to throw in. Go on WikiLeaks and read it. It's back up. It was down yesterday, weirdly. That was a strange thing, but
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just try to improve yourself. Just every day, just try to do something, good for yourself. Yeah.
Don't get for one thing. Don't get all tied, because I know a lot of either the politics and also with what's going on with FTX, and I'm sure a lot of people. It's probably hard to get away from if you were involved in that, but you should probably try to get away from it, because I've been paying attention as I can, but trying not to dwell too much on it, because I know forever I know there's something fishy about somebody popping out of nowhere and having that much money behind him you know, come on, give me a break. It's so
Right.
freaking obvious.
Right.
And you always have to expect something like this, but it sucks that it happens to the people who believe in what now, you know.
Yeah.
A lot
Well,
of,
and it hasn't fundamentally changed the usage. Like our numbers have
Right.
not been down at Rivet. Like people are using crypto,
Right.
the real
Right.
part of it.
It's also
still
weird that I
every
don't
day.
know anyone that has this account.
Isn't that odd?
It's a question that a lot of
Yeah, that's
like
actually kind of
my
weird. Now that you mention it.
associates have asked, and the only time one person on a show last night that Darko on Crypto Tonight, out of like 5, one person had an FTX account, and these were all CEOs of projects. They
Huh.
weren't like regular folks. These were all like, you know, big names, and one person's like, yeah, I used it. I've used it.
I'll say something here. I have a Bittrex account that is frozen. You know, I hadn't used it forever. It doesn't have a ton of money in it, a few $100 or something. Just some crap that I bought way back, and yet I needed to get in there for reporting, and so it's like, oh, you can't get in, and so I ping them.
Right.
I've gone through 7 or 8 now separate pictures to make sure your elbows are in the picture and all this crap, and I'm like. It's like, okay, and every time I point to me, you can also, I'm on these 3 shows every week. You can still see this is me. You can see that that's who this is. You could, you know, and it's like, sorry, sir, this has gone to some, and like, it is crazy.
Yeah,
you know,
and honestly, if it's centralized, it's not crypto, right? It's a shadow bank with a retail
I have
division.
2 Huobi and Hit BTC. Both of them closed me out. And I said, hey, I have money on there. And they both said, yeah, but it's not a ton.
Wow.
They both said the same thing. Huobi's huge. And they actually, they want me to be ambassador for them, which I do stuff for them. But they're like, hey, go set your stream up in the app. And when I go to sign in, it locks my account every time.
So
like,
weird.
no, you can't. And I tell them, and they're like, oh, we're sorry. And they reopen it, but I can't use it.
I've had I think 3 traditional banks shut us down, either the company or me personally.
But like you said, it was only a couple $100.
Yeah,
they literally said, no, it's only like $280, man. You don't worry about it. You don't need it.
Yeah, that's why. That's the other thing, man. Free your bonds, get out of debt. Freaking don't be a slave. That's the prime area that people have to worry about. Is like, can I afford my house, right?
Or if you dare, default and don't answer calls. That's
wow,
another way you can.
That I would not recommend. But either way,
that's some hardcore rebel shit.
If we don't control our government, you can look at that's something you need to learn from history. There's been times where they've used debt to put people in prison, and our government still does it. You can
with child support.
They can hit you with a crime that's not punishable by going to jail, but not paying the fine is. Yeah. So you can not mow your grass. Yeah. You know, and get that ticket for it's $400 here. For if you don't mow your lawn, it's $400. Wow. And my neighbor across the street hates me. He's an asshole, and he works for the city, so he calls on me all the time.
That guy is a shameful human being.
And I went to court, and they're like, I said, and my friend has went off on him. I've had people go to court with me. They're like, hey, my grass is 3 times as high as this. This guy is harassing me. And they're like, well, we're not allowed to say who made the call. I was like, come on. But if you don't pay it, and there's been times in my life where I couldn't pay it. You know what I mean? I had my bills and everything, an extra $450. Can't do it, dude. And you can't pay it out. So you would go to jail. And then you've got court fees on top of that. If you end up going to court, it's like $600. Yeah. It's like $600 for your.
When we moved to Bellevue, one of our first visitors was this sweet old lady from down the street. She came, we invited her in, talked to her a little bit. She asked about the kids. She's like, sweet lady, right? 3 days later, we get it's a call and a letter from the city that our dogs are not licensed. We just freaking moved there, right? Mm-hmm. Your dogs are not licensed. And so this freaking sweet old lady came in and reported us that, oh, your dogs are not licensed. Like, yeah, people are horrible.
Like, thanks for calling this Stasi. Jesus. I didn't know this was East Germany.
Oh man. Anyway, okay. So last thing to say. So I'm doing things. So make sure Den.Social call this afternoon. Make sure you participate if you can. Lots of questions, lots of cool things happening. And
Dave on it?
Super Happy Dragon. What's that?
Is Dave on today's show?
Yes, Dave will be there today.
Okay.
So if you guys can come, it'd be awesome. Whatever.
Tell him the Coffee with Den intro
Uh-huh.
is amazing. I don't know why he did that, because his books got wet with coffee. He just pours it's his house.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, it's brilliant.
I was like, dude, and then I was like, you ruined that Dune book up. And then I looked and there's a game genie, and I was like, you're ruining that game genie, I'm gonna be pissed.
Dude,
but then I saw he had a
something that was living
Wi-Fi
rent free in
box.
my brain out of the past.
He put it on top of something, so he didn't let the game genie box get ruined. But that was it's amazing intro.
Wow. Yeah, I thought so. He was all modest about it. He said, it's kind of cheesy. I'm like, no, that is
cool.
Brilliant. So
yeah,
I love it.
That's cool.
Okay. And the last word, go to crypto-law.us. Crypto-law.us. Right on the homepage, it says connect to Congress over on the right side. Click on that button. Then it has you enter your name, your zip code, and you click this, and it sends that thing that he read off to us today. Super helpful, because a lot of these, a lot of times it'll wake them up. It's like, oh crap, I have a lot of constituents that seem to care about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
It happens.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. You'd be surprised how little it takes to get them to see an issue.
Yep. Then call them. Then show up at their freaking local office. Do all those things. It actually sometimes helps. They'll get on a phone with you. I think the one thing that's so interesting to me historically, as to different civilizations that have been in similar dire straits that I think we're in, is that the U.S. is so large that the threshold, it's almost like, for something to happen, a lot of other countries will, it's like, why did you guys do it? You have guns, you don't do anything. It's a huge country, and meaning that it's kind of like, a fault line that is, will have an earthquake, but it doesn't happen very often because that pressure builds up to enormous depths before it fires. And that's what's going on right now.
Well, I mean, and it feels the less people believe that the neighbor to their left and the neighbor to their right shares their feelings about what's going on, the slower it builds, right?
Yep.
Believe in the people around you. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
So.
Also, I've been talking about this. We don't realize, I think, being Americans, that our way of thinking is different than other countries. Trump said something, and when he said it, people really went off on him. But he said, we're not refugees. When there's a problem in our country or something, we don't leave. We don't run.
Right.
We fix it, or we fight it, or we die. And I think a lot of that is because we're a nation of immigrants and refugees. Like, this was their last hope. They know we can run here, but this is it. This is now we're against the wall. If we don't fight here, then if we don't keep this place, and if we don't keep this place different than where it came from, if we don't, keep it this way,
right,
we have nowhere to go. And
if we bow to pressure from others to conform,
which we've lost, because just being in Texas, I can tell you, our state was blue, man. There's so many people from California who come here, and they're instituting the same things that were terrible and ruined
California.
And to me, it's just common sense, and it makes sense to most people. But dude, we have a homeless problem that you won't believe in Austin. I mean, it's wherever these people are, and they've instituted these policies.
Well, I mean, and in fairness, in fairness to them, Texas had already started skipping down the restrict construction road a while back. So it's become progressively harder to build new housing.
We've lost a lot of it, but it would still. We always were like, hey, we have the Second Amendment. No one's going to mess with us. And when Japan and everybody, there's a gun behind every blade of grass. We can't ever invade. That's our badge of honor. Yeah, you're right. That's how it is, buddy. We don't think to other people in other countries. We never thought we'd have to fight our own government. We never thought things would be this bad. We never thought that it would ever come to that. We're not a country where that's a thought. You know, I know there's lots that happens in other places, and that sounds so terrible of me to say, but it is. We think that way. That happens to other people, other countries.
Yep.
It couldn't
All
happen
right.
here, and now we're
Oh yeah,
sitting in this.
yeah.
All right.
Actually,
Go ahead.
parting shot.
Last
That actually
thought.
is a quote, right? That is a quote. There's a guy who literally says, and it was either Labotti or Bastia. I'm not sure, but it's the idea that that people are largely enslaved by the fact that they don't believe that it's happening.
Yeah.
You know, so
Boiling the frog.
trust yourself on that one, right? Trust your reason. Look at it with your eyes. Look at it with your senses, and say, I can conclude.
Yes,
because you can. So
all right. So thanks everybody for joining. Thanks, John. Thanks, Lisa. They both had to leave early for various reasons, and thanks, guys, for being here.
Yep, share the shit out of this, man.
Yes. See y'all next week.
America's not the government, people. The America is you. It is the Grand fucking Canyon, the Rocky Mountains, the deserts of the Southwest, the Pacific fucking Ocean, the Atlantic fucking Ocean. It is the grandest continent. And what the fuck have you people done? You have turned yourself into sheep, every goddamn one of you.